Hello everyone. In today's video, let us learn how to display a word on a two-line LED.
At the end of this video, you will be able to construct a two-line LED circuit, test the two-line LED circuit. Let us collect the tools, equipment and materials required to do this practical. Trainees toolkit, digital multimeter with props, soldering iron kit, general purpose PCB, battery 9 volt with connector, diode IN5402, 2 numbers, decade counter IC CD4017, timer IC 555, positive regulator IC 7805, diode IN4148, 2 numbers, transistor SL100, 2 numbers, transistor TIP122 with heat sink, capacitor 10 microfarad 16 volt, capacitor 0.1 microfarad, capacitor 0.01 microfarad, preset 100 kilo ohm, resistor 10 kilo ohm 0.5 watt, resistor 470 ohm 0.5 watt 3 numbers, resistor 220 ohm 0.5 watt 5 numbers, LED 5 mm red 43 numbers, connecting wires as required. Construction of a two-line LED circuit to display a word. Collect all the components required and test them for good working condition. Identify the voltage regulator IC 7805, timer IC 555 and decade counter IC CD4017 by their part numbers printed on the top of the IC. Place the IC on the PCB, aligning the pins with the corresponding holes. Ensure that pin 1 is correctly aligned with its marking on the PCB. Start by soldering one pin first to secure the IC in place. Then solder the opposite corner pin to ensure proper alignment. In IC 7805 pin number, the unregulated input is connected to 1 and 2 and the regulated output is taken between 2 and 3. Connect the input and output pins of the ICs as per your circuit diagram. You can use wire jumpers and soldering on the PCB to make these connections. Connect the regulated output from IC 7805 to the input of timer IC 555 through the capacitors C2, resistor R1. 100 kilo ohm preset and capacitor C3 as shown in the circuit diagram. Connect the pins 8 and 4 of IC 555 to the positive supply and pin 1 to the ground or negative supply as shown in circuit diagram. Connect the output of the IC 555 pin 5 to pin 14 of the decade counter IC CD4017 as input. Connect pin 16 to the positive supply and pin 8 to the ground or negative supply of IC CD4017. Identify the SL100 transistor terminals, emitter, base, collector from its datasheet. The SL100 is a widely used NPN bipolar junction transistor BJT primarily designed for general purpose amplification and switching applications. Take two numbers of SL100 transistors, namely T1, T2 and place them near the IC CD4017 decade counter. Make a mark on the terminals for easy identification. Connect the emitter terminal of both transistor T1, T2 to the ground. Connect the base terminals of transistors T1 and T2 to pins 2 Q1 and 4 Q2 of the decade counter IC CD4017 through the resistors R2 and R3, each 470 ohms as shown in the circuit diagram. Identify the transistor TIP122 from the part number printed on it and identify the terminals from its datasheet. Place the transistor TIP 122 in the PCB, connect the collector terminal to the ground and negative supply. Connect the pins 1 Q5 and 5 Q6 to the base terminal of transistor TIP 122 through diodes D5 and D6. IN4148 and the resistor R4 470 ohms are shown in the circuit diagram. Diode D5 and D6 must be connected with the correct polarity of the anode and cathode terminals. Take 43 numbers of 5 mm LED lights and divide all the LEDs into 5 different groups. Each group is used to display 5 letters: I, T and I in the first line and E and M in the second line. Align or design the 5 LED groups, each group by placing them in the alphabets I, T, I, E and M as shown. Connect all the LEDs in parallel with correct polarity. LEDs are polarized components, meaning they have a positive and a negative lead. The longer lead is typically the positive anode and the shorter lead or flat side of the LED's plastic body is usually the negative cathode. Once the LEDs are inserted into the PCB, gently bend the leads outward. This prevents the LEDs from falling out during soldering. To connect the LEDs in parallel, simply solder all the positive leads anodes of the LEDs together and solder all the negative leads cathodes together using wires. Connect the anode terminals of all LEDs to the positive terminal of the battery. Connect the negative terminals of all LEDs to the collector terminals of transistors T1, SL100, T2, SL100 and TIP 122, T3 through resistors of 220 ohms and diodes IN5402 as shown in the circuit diagram. Testing the two-line LED circuit. Connect the 9-volt battery terminals to the input of the circuit. Connect the positive terminal of the 9-volt battery to pin 1 of the IC7805 and the negative terminal of the battery to pin 2 of the IC7805 as shown in the circuit diagram. Observe the output LED display cycle. Adjust the preset VR of stable multi-vibrator to change the clock frequency of decade counter to vary the display time. Observe the display output for the time or sequence of LED letters.
In this video, we have discussed how to construct a two-line LED circuit. Test the two-line LED circuit. This concludes the exercise. Thank you.